Last time we defined the product owner describes the what. The Scrum Master, they protect the process and help the team with flow. Today we're diving into the engine room, the development team. And here's the secret, a great development team defines the terms of engagement so the work actually moves. Hi guys, welcome back to Project Management 101. It's Dave here, it's great to see you. Over the past few videos we're breaking down the Scrum roles. So far we've covered the Scrum Master and the Product Owner. Today we're deep diving into the development team. They're the guys on the ground actually doing the work of the Scrum team. The Product Owner's important, the Scrum Master's important, but the development team, they're where it's at. Typically, in most technology-focused organisations, a Scrum team is made up of a number of roles. That's normally some software engineers, maybe some business analysts, maybe some quality assurance and test engineers, maybe some DevOps engineers. You're trying to get a group of people that can come together and carve out work and deliver it. Nothing more, nothing less. Let's get delivery, let's get throughput, let's get our customer value out early. So the way that a Scrum team comes together across the Scrum Master, the Product Owner and the development team really helps to define the way they work together, the things that they can achieve and the paths that they carve out to deliver value to the customer early. So that being said, I'm not a software engineer, I'm not a quality assurance engineer, I'm a delivery person by trade. I am a qualified Scrum Master, we talked about that previously, and I'm keeping a Scrum Master hat on as I talk about the different Scrum roles because this is a delivery channel ultimately. So let's think about the development team in a forum like sprint planning. So the product owner walks in, right guys, I need these 10 features, I need them by the end of the month. The development team take a step back and go, hold on. Based on our actual velocity that we've achieved over the past few sprints, it's more likely that we can commit to 6. If we clear the deck sooner, we can pull in additional work. However, we're not willing to compromise quality to hit a number of tickets. I think the key takeaway within this is the development team own the backlog, and ultimately, whilst the product owner's accountable for defining the backlog, the development team are the people that have to deliver it, so their sizing, their number and their commitments are the things that bring it to life. The Scrum Master and the Scrum team in totality help to pull together an understanding of velocity, i.e. how long something takes, how many story points did we predict some work would take, did it take that long, great, and then we start to build up a data set, and the data is really important in a Scrum team. And it allows us to drive towards a predictable model of delivery. I think whilst we're thinking about sprint planning, let's think about this as an anti-pattern and a scenario which I've seen many teams fall into the trap of. The product owner's walked in, we've got to get the user profile portal ready, it's definitely 2 weeks work, I want that in the next sprint. The development team should rightly go, look, if this is going to take 2 weeks and it's 2 weeks work, we're not even starting it. If we can't break it down into appropriate stories that we can size and complete within 1 to 2 days, we're not breaking it down to enough level of detail. We're not ever going to achieve anything within the sprint. And as an entire Scrum organisation, we should all refuse to let a ticket sit in the backlog for 10 working days that's in progress. We're not tracking progress, we're not recognising issues, we're not knowing if we've got bottlenecks or issues, can we meet our sprint goals and commitments? We don't know because it's not broken down to a tangible level of detail, and that's a real anti-pattern that you need to avoid. I've watched many teams fall into that pitfall. And I think the key takeaway here is if the story's too big that you can't move it through the board within 1 to 2 days, it's not been broken down enough. It's too big. That's an anti-pattern. Small stories drive and keep visible progress, and we can spot issues earlier and deal with them quicker and meet the sprint goals more consistently. The other things that the development team will do during sprint planning is challenge to make sure the priority and the commitment in the sprint is in the right order. The product owner might need these 10 things, but the Scrum team, the development team, the engineers need to make sure that the backlog is equally weighted with technology items. There will be technology deliverables that are not product deliverables. that work in synergy. So you need to make sure that you've got a backlog that's a mixed. If you're in sprint planning and there's a load of enablement work required to make a kind of product focused feature come to life, you've got to call it out, and they should all sit in the same backlog. And then the sprint is a fair mix of not only delivering the product thing but doing the technology thing that you need to do, avoiding technical debt, building the right tests, making sure automation's at the heart so you can ship quickly and predictably, to make sure that you're getting the right progress, not just for the product but for everybody. We ship better, we ship better quality, we ship more predictably and consistently. So like the product owner in the Scrum Master video, we talked about a few of the different forums. In the daily stand-up, the delivery team are here to update each other, and I can't emphasize that enough. I know I talked about it in the Scrum Master video, and I talked about it also in the product owner one, and I'm going to repeat myself because this is critical. So I'm going to play the developers. Developer number 1. Yesterday I smashed my API integration. I'm so pleased. Today I'm going to be focused on sorting out the permissions to the database. And I think that's going to be a bit of a challenge. I might need to shout for help. If you guys can be around, just watch out. I'll drop a message on Slack. Great, it's clear. I haven't got any blockers. Developer number 2 heard that call. I've dealt with that in the past. I've got some information. Let's catch up after sprint planning and I'll just share my knowledge and make sure that I'm around to support you. I don't want to see you get blocked. Great. My update is I did the user config that I needed to yesterday. Today I'm focused on some end user config and super user config to allow us to land this with our customer more quickly. I don't have any blockers. And we move on. And like I was emphasising, the key takeaway there is the team are talking to each other. They're the experts, willing to work outside their own area, but willing to pool their knowledge for the greater good of the entire team. This is about the commitments, and it's around the goals that we set for the sprint. Doesn't matter who's got the knowledge. It doesn't matter how busy we are. We don't succeed if we don't all succeed. And I can't emphasize enough, like I'd said at the start, this isn't an update for the manager, the Scrum Master or the product owner. However, the Scrum Master plays a critical role observing this conversation and watching out for those nuances. These people aren't raising blockers. However, I'm not seeing the tickets progress in the way that I thought they were going to, or the way the team thought they were going to. There might be something I need to dig into. If I can take away a few one-to-one conversations with the team at appropriate times without impacting the flow, I might be able to dig in. Maybe there's some hidden blockers that we're just not willing to share. Maybe they'll come out in a different way. Great, so now we've talked about sprint planning and we've talked about the daily stand-up. One of the other forums, if you like, is actually executing the work. I'm doing the work, it's day to day, I'm making my engineering changes, I'm building the system, whatever it is. Here comes Mr. Stakeholder, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's somebody you've known for years. They know you're a software engineer, they know that you're working on this piece of work. They just pop along, little message in the chat. Hey, any chance you can just add this thing to this button? It'll take you 5 minutes. I know it's a really quick task. I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but please can you? And a great development team here goes, that's great. It sounds like a great opportunity and an option for us to implement it. However, we can't do it right now. Please can you pick up with the product owner to make sure it's on our backlog and we can work it through as we come in for the next round of planning if we deem it to be important enough based on the priorities that our product owner set. What a textbook response. In reality, most of the time, the development team probably won't do that. The best we can ask for, and this is fair, is do you mind picking up with the Scrum Master or the product owner and they can just help work out what's the right time for us to pick that up? Great, that's the perfect answer. And then the product owner and the Scrum Master, either together or in isolation, can work out to make sure that it's fed into the right place. The Scrum Master into the product owner facilitated, we need to pick up this conversation, please can you help? Or the product owner directly straight into the backlog and then they can prioritise it within their backlog refinement process. I think the key takeaway from that is the squad, the Scrum Master, protect the backlog's integrity. It's not that we're not willing to accept change, we definitely are, but we want to do it in a controlled way. And by bringing something in mid-sprint is not controlled, and it will cause issues with the committed deliverables that we're aiming to achieve. I think another important thing to think about from a development team's point of view when working in Scrum is the definition of done. And this is something that's co-created, normally facilitated by the Scrum Master to think about what that is, but also working with the product owner. What is our definition of done as a group? Maybe it's the code is written. Maybe all the automation tests have passed. Maybe it's in production. Ultimately, each team will have their own definition of done based on their context and their environment, and that's perfectly okay. And it's fine to have two Scrum teams working alongside each other with completely different definitions of done. It's appropriate for you as a group of individuals and experts coming together. But that definition of done is central to everything that the development team do. So, when a piece of code is written, but it hasn't been peer reviewed, or it hasn't worked its way through the automation suite, it's not done. We need to be super vigilant with that, and we need to be super on it. If we're going to move something to done in the Kanban, in the daily stand-up, it's met the definition of done. If it hasn't, and you're hoodwinking someone, that's bad practice, it's an anti-pattern, watch out for it. That's a great opportunity for a retro if it happens. I've seen it happen a bunch of times. And we get stuck in that trap of something in progress and never getting done. The Scrum team, in totality, are the gatekeepers of quality. Something that's partially done isn't done at all. The final place where the development team show up within the Scrum ceremonies that's super important is the demo and the retro. We talked about the demo in the product owner one. That's the product owner's place to shine. However, the Scrum team, the development team, play an integral part of that, showing the work that they built over the sprint, showing how they met the sprint goals and objectives, showing shippable code or whatever it was they were working on to the customer to gain the feedback. They don't have to have difficult conversations with the stakeholders. That's what the product owner is there for. They're there to be really transparent and get everybody super excited about the great work that they're building. And that's so important. Even if it's we've just built a backlog, even if it's we've just set up this database configuration, showing everybody's great practice and great skill for getting everybody upskilled, able to talk out loud, able to demonstrate and have a bit of a show and tell type culture. And it's great for culture within software engineering teams. So do it justice, make sure that you always do it, keep it religious, and make sure it's just part of your repeating pattern and cadence. As a Scrum Master, it's your job. Don't let it drop. Drive it forward, make sure they're there, make sure we turn up, bring lots of energy. It's great fun, and it's great fun to share with our wider teams, stakeholders and wider audiences of interested people. And then finally, the sprint retrospective. So this is the squad's look back inwards. What went well? What didn't go so well? What do they want to do differently next time? We talked about this in the Scrum Master space. This is the opportunity for the team to talk about what they thought was good, what wasn't so good. This isn't a pointing finger game. This is about growth as a team. We didn't get to production as quickly as we wanted. How can we make that better? Maybe there was a challenge with a blocker. Could we have raised it earlier? Maybe we'd missed the dependency. How can we look at our stories in a different way to drive a different conversation? Can we bring in other people to have conversations at different points within our life cycle of tickets to pull out those conversations earlier? Great questions, great things to feed into a retro. If the team are struggling, give them some prompts. Scrum Master, great ideas. How long does it take us to get to production? Great. Could we go quicker? Do we think we've got any issues with quality on that path to production? Great. Is there some different automation that we want to think about? What are the things that are consistently blocking us as a squad? Great. There's some great retrospective topics that you can drive forward discussion if your team are a little bit quiet. Don't be shy. Facilitate the conversation. At the heart and core of the Scrum process is the development team. They're the central linchpin that really bring the engine together. They ultimately drive our work to a conclusion. They're the people that make it happen. The Scrum Master protects them to allow them to do it. The product owner makes sure they're putting the right fuel in the engine to make sure it's driving on all cylinders. And then the team drive forward and keep that momentum. And it's so integral to each part and each role within Scrum, that they come together and form that synergy, and then the engine just chugs along, getting more and more predictable, more and more reliable, and ultimately shipping that quality code often to customers to get the value out early. Make sure you smash that like button if you got some value out of today's video. Why don't you drop a comment? Let me know what you liked. Let me know what I can do better. Let me know if there's any specific topics within Scrum that you'd like me to cover. We're going to be covering it for a little while over the next few weeks and months. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of those uploads. That's all for this week. I'm Dave. Thanks for watching Project Management 101. From chaos to clarity, take care.